Hi, I'm Cece with Freedom Chasers, and I'm joined today with my dear friend Karla Solomon. You've probably seen her on a lot of our social media posts, but I will let Karla introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karla Solomon. Yes, I am a survivor of human trafficking. I was actually trafficked as a child and as an adult. I let's see, I am the survivor advocate and outreach specialist for Ministries. I am an active board member of A21 Freedom Chasers out of San Antonio. Hey, hey. And I am also on the Survivor Leader Council out of Governor Greg Abbott's office, which is called the HTSLC, Human Trafficking Survivor Leader Council. That's a mouthful. And here recently, I've been invited to do some other nice, cool, big things. I'll share a little bit about that before we get off of here, though.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it. I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, so I've been invited to participate in the National Survivor Survey for Polaris. So I will be working on that. That's a big, huge project. They didn't invite me just to participate in the actual survey and the questionnaire and everything, but it was more on outreach, workshops, how to reach survivors, how do we get survivors to identify that this is happening to them. So it's a big initiative that they're working towards, and it's probably not going to be complete till like summer of 2021, but it's going to be worth it totally. And
That's
another
wonderful.
thing that the amazing Cece here has helped me with recently is creating content for the church specifically. I feel really called and drawn to the churches here in this recent few months. And I just really feel like the church has a big role to fill in this fight. And I would like to give them not just the information, the education, but the empowerment to be able to step into that and actually help in their communities.
That's exciting, Karla. I'm so glad to hear that. For our viewers that don't know, Polaris is the organization that actually has the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and that's kind of where we point everybody to make a phone call because they also all the information and data they collect helps all of us to have a real good understanding of how who leads the fight against human trafficking and where the most calls are coming from. That's how we know that Texas is ranked number 2, which is really
Yeah.
high. So that's
And
a huge undertaking.
all of their information is survivor informed, all of it.
Yeah, there
I
you
didn't know
go.
that
So
until today. I thought that was amazing.
that is amazing, and I'm so glad that you get to be part of that. That's awesome, and I think it's so important too that they're including, like you said, they're being led by survivors.
Yeah,
That's how we should all be, right? We don't
definitely.
know anything until you all should tell us.
Yeah. Well, nobody knows what it looks like better than somebody that's actually been there. So, I mean, I totally agree with their approach.
um, okay, so as a survivor, you mentioned, right? No one knows better than a survivor. If there is someone that's watching the segment that is being trafficked and doesn't really identify as a trafficking victim, what are some things that you can, in your experience, kind of help walk them through mentally, right? I think trafficking is the term we created, not something that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I actually came out of trafficking as an adult, I didn't even know what the term trafficking meant. So I think whenever we try to push our verbiage on other people as far as like trafficking and exploitation and all of these big words, not everybody is educated enough to know these big words, especially the more vulnerable community that possibly hasn't gotten the best education or whatever their case may be. But I've realized that a lot of people don't identify as a trafficked survivor or a victim because they don't exactly know the definition of it. And then even with the definition, it's so much of a wide range that the word trafficking will cover. They kind of think, well, if my dad is doing this to me, that's, a lot of people misdiagnose and they say that that's molestation or incest or something of that sort. But If something is being profited for the dad in that situation, that still falls under trafficking. So a lot of people, I think, don't identify because of the language that we've created around this topic. So I think whenever we start using more what's the word for it, common words, like a lot of people know what like molestation and things like that are, but the thing is that that has a total different definition than trafficking. So I think educating our communities and educating our children is probably the most important to for other people to be able to really know what this is and kind of pass along that information throughout their circles and throughout their groups of people that that they hang out with and do life with. So I think that has been like a big gap. A lot of people don't identify as a trafficking victim or survivor because they don't really know what that all entails. So whenever I was going through this process of learning what it even meant to be trafficked, and I would probably say that I started really digging deep into educating myself once I found out what my trafficker's charges were, which was compelling prostitution by force and human trafficking of a person. So I did not know what neither one of those meant or entailed or what it at all. So I started kind of digging into that. And then, I honestly would ask those questions, not just to investigators, but to my close friends. Like, and I would ask these really ugly questions like, did I really do that to myself? Did I make that choice to do all that? Did Was it my fault? Did I do something to cause this to myself? And the answer is no, you didn't. Somebody else is manipulating you and controlling you into thinking a certain way to where you feel like you have no other choice, or where been putting it in a position that you can't leave from. And so, with that being said, though, a lot of girls, they don't understand, or they think it's like domestic violence. They think that their boyfriend or they're doing it out of love. Even, my boyfriend said he would love me more if I slept with his best friend, and the guy's profiting off of it. So that's trafficking. A lot of people don't understand the dynamics behind it and how much that trafficking umbrella actually covers.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. Trauma bond
Yeah.
is real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we know that from human trafficking, right? We know that there is the traffic side, and then there's the demand side that fuels it.
Right.
Um, right? There's a as someone who's a trafficked person, they're replaceable, right?
Yes.
If that person gets out, then they go out and recruit other people.
Yes.
And then there's the demand side where they just keep wanting it.
Thank
So
you.
they keep providing. It's
Yeah.
like the supply and demand, right? Um,
Yeah.
so how do you see the whole picture of trafficking now that you are on the other side, one, helping survivors to thrive in their survivorship, right? But also seeing the bad side of people and the demand side that you were part of. Um, what are your personal thoughts on human trafficking and how it can, like, how we can fix this, how we can end it? Just your personal thoughts.
I mean, my first thought to that question was that with such a high demand, this is not going to be an easy, quick fix. It's not.
Mhm.
And it's probably something that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, honestly. But do I think it can end? Yes, I do. I believe that with all my heart, because I honestly think that a lot of the problem is not just the demand, but these men that think it's okay to manipulate and use these girls in such a horrific way. That is more damaging than any kind of anything that I've seen in my days. And I've experienced myself how hard it is to pull yourself out of that. And, I mean, wow, honestly, the demand, my personal opinion, higher punishment for being caught in these acts or participating in these acts. I mean, obviously, a lot of people right now have really gotten on the whole Save the Children movement and things like that, which I think is amazing.
Mhm.
But before keep going, I will say a lot of misinformation is passed around right now,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
really want to talk about that in a second. But
Okay.
but as far as like actually ending the problem, I think it has to be like a collective effort from every single direction, not just the demand, not just our children, not just our teenagers in high school or our college kids or what. We have to come at this from every single direction to educate, inform, give these people next steps and empower them of what they're supposed to do if they see it, because that's a lot of the gap also, is a lot of people see it, but what do I do with that information? So, actually giving people um, that feeling deep down that I have to do something about this. Like, this is not okay. So, I really think educating is important. That's obviously why I do a lot of the stuff that I do, is because I really do feel that that is one of the most important factors in this fight, is educating our community, educating the public of the truth, basically. And
Right.
without people being educated, they're going to be blind to see it. And I've had so many people, after like me and your trainings that we've done, me and Chuck, when we've done trainings, and me and Aubrey, so many people have come up to me and they're like, Karla, I never even knew. And so many people have come up to me after trainings and been like, Karla, I think this is happening to my cousin or my sister or my daughter even. And I think that educating is definitely important. Punishment, obviously, higher for not just the trafficker, but for the demand, for the Johns, for the buyers. If without them, the trafficker would have no business. So I mean, you've got to look at this thing. I know this sounds really cold, but you have to look at it from a business perspective, because that's what these guys, that's what traffickers treat trafficking as a business. They use girls just like they use cattle. They create a whole stable, and yes, they even call it a stable. They create a stable of girls so that these men that are wanting to purchase can go and basically pick out what they want and pay for what they want. I mean, without being vulgar here or graphic,
Yeah.
and without that factor being there, then this wouldn't be going on. But, something that you really opened my eyes to, Cece, is that human trafficking has been going on since biblical times, you guys. And I mean, it's crazy to think about, things that actually, stories that happen in the Bible, parables that Jesus spoke with. And it spoke about how, yeah, just it spoke about all of these things and how the church needs to stand up and take their place. And that's why I'm trying to go towards the direction that I'm going as far as creating content for the church. But yeah, to answer that question, I would definitely think or believe that we would have to come at this issue from every single angle, every single side, because the one thing that criminals are good at is that when we set laws in place, they find a loophole. So anytime that we find one way to make that entrance into this area and start rescuing girls or whatever that look like, or training our community, they're going to find another way to go around, like just with the whole COVID thing. Okay, they went completely online, I mean, and everything is being done online, as far as like fans only page and webcams and all this kind of stuff. Like, yes, it is going on even during the middle of COVID. And if anything, it's probably gotten worse.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're absolutely right. I this one thing that I always say when I go and do teachings anywhere is, when you think about a trafficker, you think about me and my 8 to 5 job, right? I'm gonna do everything that I can to do
Yeah.
a really good job and excel at that because that pays my bills.
Yeah.
A trafficker is no different. They see this as a job and they're going to get as creative as possible to be out there and make themselves some good money, right? This is what
Yeah.
they see it as. As you mentioned, it's a business. And if
Well,
they're
and
going to be,
something that they really don't care about is who that hurts in the process. That's something that a lot of people don't understand. Like, these guys do not, they're feeding you lines of what you want to hear in order for you to have that reaction and trust them, for them to tell you, well, you said you loved me, will you do this for me? You need to do this for me. If you love me, you need to prove it. And I think that that's probably, that kind of goes into the last question also. If there are girls out there that are watching this, and you, in any of this, is kind of throwing up those feelings in your heart and in your stomach, and you kind of feel sick, that's probably because that's what's going on. And I
Yeah.
don't, I mean, it's really a hurtful moment. I will be honest with you. It is a very hurtful and crushing moment to honestly realize, wow, this is what's going on with me. It really is. But in that same sentence, I would also like to say that there are so many people out here, so many organizations that are able to help these girls, these boys, these kids, and they really do care. They really have their heart in it. Their spirit is led by this to help people that are just like I was, and I mean, and it's the healing part is definitely a process. I have been through, gosh, it's what, 4 years now, and like, I'm still learning, I'm still healing, I still have things that come up, and I have to deal with those things. And yeah, they're ugly, but you know what? Once I deal with it, and once I get over it, and I pray about it, and I'm like, God, take this from me. I don't want this. I can't handle this anymore. You take it. And he does. And guess what? I go on about my day like it's like I'm just the same old me. So, I mean, it's all in how you look at what has, quote unquote, happened to you. Because there are a lot of survivors out there right now. And some of them I actually met this morning. And it hurts my heart to see so many women hurting so bad and so broken and damaged from something that someone else did to them, and that's hurtful. It tugs on my heartstrings so much. And I don't mean to say that smiling, but I'm trying to keep from crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's very real. And a lot of people don't understand that, that those outcries, those times that they get angry and lash out and all of that, if it's somebody that has been through that, a lot of people don't understand that that's them trying to build relationship with you and see if you're going to be another one of those that just leaves them
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
uses
I
them.
don't think people understand the being rescued is one thing, but the lifelong
Yeah.
struggle, right, to remain free is not easy.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. Unless you got God.
That's true, right? That's the biggest factor. Working with youth, especially, right?
Yeah.
People think quickly like, oh, I want to get involved and I want to hug everybody. Well, they probably don't want to hug you. So, you need to get the right
Yeah.
training and understand from their perspective. It's not that they don't really, they probably want a hug deep down inside, probably need a hug, but
Oh
there's a
yeah.
lot that they've seen and been through.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't understand that too, Cece. I mean, obviously, I work with girls and kids, and it is very much exactly what you said. There's so many people that have a heart for this and want to hug you and just love and pour their love into you and bandage you up and make you feel better. And I get that. I totally do. I wish I could do it myself to these girls. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these girls, every person that has been in their life recently has hurt them, in one way or the other, has completely used and abused them. Not to mention the controlling, manipulative actions, plus the fear involved in that. And then place on top of that physical and sexual trauma. They don't want to hug you. And
Yeah.
it's not anything to do with you. It's because they've been through so much. They have this wall up, and they are not going to let that wall down until they see that you are what they would consider safe.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. Um, so since we kind of know a little bit about both sides of the fight here, right? The supply and demand. If there is a gentleman watching this that is either considering or has in the past or is currently purchasing sex from a person, what would you want them to know?
I would honestly ask them to search their soul and see if the act that they are about to perform or did perform, one, would they be okay with that happening to their mom or their kid, their daughter, their son, their brother, somebody close to them? Would they be okay if they did that to them? I don't think that a lot of these men understand, or maybe they don't care. I'm not really sure, but it feels like they believe women to be there for like their pleasure. And they figure that since they're paying for it, just like you would go buy a TV at Walmart, you got warranty on it. You get what I'm saying? Like it's just like a business, guys. They expect to get what they paid for, period. And so many people, I mean, there's so many people these days that are like that. And I get that. I understand we all work hard for our money. We all want what we paid for. But what makes it okay for you to buy a child or buy a woman for your pleasure? If they're not willing participants to do this out of loving you or wanting to be with you in that way, what gives you that right to take it?
Yeah, that's that's great. I couldn't have said that any better myself. There's a there's a misconception, right, with sex work and there's prostitution, and I think that sometimes we do a really good job explaining that, and sometimes we don't. But I think that what we want people to know is that in many cases, and I think you found yourself in this situation, right?
Yeah,
The ads that you're calling to as men to purchase sex are completely they're not
it's a big
voluntary.
fake. A lot of people, I guess, would consider it prostitution because obviously these ads have pictures and phone numbers and all this stuff on there. But you guys, the whole time that I was being trafficked, every single ad that was ran was not from my phone, was not even created by me. It was posted by my trafficker and on his phone, and I had nothing to do with it. And
Yeah.
at the beginning, he would actually be the one that you were talking, all these men were talking to. So guys, if y'all are on here and y'all buy, guess what? You're not talking to her. You're talking to a trafficker that knows exactly what you want to hear. So, you know, and that's real. That is real and raw. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not, Cece, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But
Mm-hmm.
that is the honest truth. These girls don't post these ads themselves. And you know what? If they do, it's because they are in a situation that they feel the fear of someone else and they're forced to do it, or they have been coerced and manipulated into doing it, or maybe even like in my case, I tried to run away and the guy threatened to take my daughter and do the same thing, and she was 5 years old. So some of these girls end up having to stay even after they want out to protect their family or protect
Yeah.
their dog, even, you know, because yes, traffickers will go as far as threatening your dog, your child, your parents, whatever they can to keep you under their control. So
Yeah.
prostitution in my book is virtually non-existent.
Right.
There's a lot of girls out there, and I was one of them, that would honestly, with a straight face, say, no, I want to be here. I want to do this. And it's not because I wanted to or that I believed it. It was because I knew that if I said anything else, I was going to get hurt for it.
Yeah.
So I would rather just make myself look like a really bad person, you know,
Yeah.
to not get hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys, I got my ribs broke over closing a door. Closing a
Mm.
door. You know, I mean, prostitution, mm-mm. Sex work, mm-mm. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I don't at all. I know that there's a lot of people trying to make this big ripple effect about sex work and all this. Cece, I'm going to be honest with you, girl. Whenever I was out there, I never, not once, seen a girl that was not being controlled by somebody else, by a pimp.
Yeah.
not one.
Yeah.
And Fat, my trafficker, even had told me that he purposely would create meetings with girls that were what they call rogue, meaning they don't have a pimp, that they're out there working on their own. These traffickers intentionally set up meetings with these girls to inflict as much pain and damage on them so that whenever they leave, they're like, I told you you needed protection.
Hmm. That's
So,
so, wow. Yeah, I'm just still
yeah,
processing that. Sorry.
yeah, I mean, it is a lot. I mean, and I think in the past couple of years of me doing all of this, I have gotten a little bolder with,
That's good.
honestly shining that light, because I really feel that people need to know the truth. And,
Yeah.
this is the truth, as ugly as it may seem and as unsettling as it might be. It is the ugly truth, and it's hard to process. It's hard to accept. And honest, and some people, it's even hard to believe. And, I get that. I totally get that. Some people have lived in such a sheltered environment, and I don't want to say never really struggled, because that's not the word for it. It's not the word I'm thinking of, but they just, maybe some people have been through more than they have. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. But traffickers prey on the less fortunate, prey on the vulnerable, prey on sometimes the people like what I used to be is the throwaway. That's what I called myself sometimes. I was a throwaway kid. I was the kid that acted up. I was the kid that ran away from home. And I mean, those are the kids and the girls that these traffickers are looking for. And they're the ones that they're preying on. And now, don't get me wrong though, I don't want to sit here and say that that's the only people that they prey on, because that's so far from the truth. Now, whenever I was an adult and I was exploited as an adult, I was married with 3 kids, going to college. I
Yeah.
came from a nice home. I mean, I didn't come from a nice childhood. That's not what I meant to say. But, my grown up life wasn't all that bad. I mean, did me and my husband have issues? Yes, of course, everybody does. But at the same time, like, it wasn't so bad that, that I couldn't handle it, kind of.
So Karla, I know that I'm really familiar with your story because we've been friends for a few years now. But and I know that you've shared it at several of our events, like the Walk for Freedom, and just on podcasts that we have and whatnot. For people that haven't tuned into the podcast yet to hear the more detailed one, can you just give us a really quick, I guess, rundown of your story so people are familiar with your trafficking case?
Yes, of course. So let's see, I'll just go through like a quick run through. But it kind of all started when I was a kid. I had been molested as a child and taken away from my mother, placed with family members. My aunt actually adopted me. And from after all of that, and by the way, I don't remember that trauma, I just know that it happened. But it was carried with me, like in my spirit, I could still feel it. Um, but so I had a really good childhood upbringing from my aunt. My aunt was strict and by the book, and was very respectful, taught me manners, that kind of thing. And I had a really good childhood up until I was about 11 years old. At 11 though, I got in a little bit of trouble with my aunts. I stole a pack of her cigarettes, and yeah, I mean, what kid doesn't? So I got kicked out of her house because of that, though. It was kind of harsh. My mom and my stepdad were drug addicts, and my aunt dropped me off on their doorstep and said, "Here, I want you to know what it feels like to live poor." So she left me there with a backpack of clothes. And I soon found out that something wasn't right in this house. My aunt didn't do drugs. My aunt smoked cigarettes, every maybe once in a blue moon would drink a beer or something. So I was not exposed to any of that world until I was 11 years old. And it was like a shock thing for me. Like, I had never experienced this. So I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had nobody, and I started to run away from home. I befriended this girl, or this lady. She was 33 years old and I was 11. And she started talking me into hanging out with her. She started kind of treating me like a mom. She would wait for me at the school bus and, make me sandwiches after lunch, after school and stuff like that. And she treated me like I was one of her kids. Well, and to the point that I started calling her mom. She was like my mom figure. She took that place. I was vulnerable in that area because I did not have a mom, and or the mom that I had wasn't coherently there. So, she filled that role for me. And what happened though was she took advantage of that. She started taking me to parties with all these older guys. I ended up losing my virginity at one of these parties, not by choice. And she celebrated. She thought it was the most wonderful thing ever. And the next thing you know, I used to only run away for like 1 or 2 days. And then all of a sudden I started going for like weeks at a time. And the reason being is because she would have me on the streets doing sexual favors for men, drug dealers in particular, so that she could do the same exact drug that my parents were doing at home. And yeah, it hurt. It hurt. And I honestly didn't even realize that I was trafficked as a kid until I started educating myself as an adult after I was recovered as an adult. So I think you were part of that when that light bulb came off. I was like, oh my gosh, but I mean, and like I said, that's how easy it is for somebody not to identify as that's what happened to them.
Right.
And yes, at 12 years old, she had me addicted to drugs. She had me out there doing all of this. And I was able to get away from that, because we got pulled over by the police one night, and I was in the car, and she had picked up this guy that she seemed like was best friends. And the police later told me at the police station that that man had just gotten out of prison for a 15-year sentence for raping and killing a young girl on the Texas City Dike. And this happened in Texas City, Texas. So that's how I was able to get away from her. And I was actually wanting to go back. I wasn't even going to listen to my mom or anything like that. I was honestly going to go back. But what got me was I actually talked to her daughter, Crystal. Um, Crystal was 18 years old. And after she heard that I was recovered with her mother from the police, she came personally to talk to me at 12 years old. And she confided in me and told me that her mom had done that to her all of her life. And whenever she turned 16, her mom had actually sold her to what was now her trafficker that I thought was her boyfriend. And the girl was only 18 years old. She was working in the strip clubs, and she was skinnier than my daughter. I mean, it was, that was an eye opener. And I never really, even as an adult and growing older, I never looked at that as trafficking. And I just kind of thought that I got stuck in a bad situation. I had to do some things that I thought were normal that everybody had to do. And that was so far from the truth. So fast forwarding a little bit, after I was recovered from that as a child, I actually started using sex as a survival skill. So at 14 years old, I found out I was pregnant. I decided not to terminate the baby. So my son is now 19. He is a full-time student at LSU. Go Tigers! Hey. And he's studying for physics, science, and mathematics. So he wants to do research for NASA. Like, he's going to be a world changer, and had I listened to everybody else, he wouldn't even be here. And it was probably one of the most important decisions of my life. I just knew that that wasn't the right thing to do. So, and everybody's in that situation different. I'm not trying to like push my belief on anybody or anything. I know how some people are. But for me, it wasn't right. So, 15 years old, I had my first son. It was just me and him for a short time, because, like I said, I didn't know the dad. of the baby. So I actually lied to a guy that I was kind of dating. And I told him that it was his kid. And I honestly did that because I was scared to be on the street pregnant. And I did not feel like I had a safe place to go. And so, yes, I lied to have a safe place to be taken care of during my pregnancy.
Right.
Whenever I was about 18, um, I was hurt by somebody, boyfriend, and I ended up meeting my husband through all of it. And from that day on, me and him have been thick as thieves. I mean, he's just, we're peas and carrots, Jenny. So, he's just, I mean, he's my everything. He's been my rock. He's been my everything. Second to God.
Sure. Yeah.
We met, we ended up getting married. I had gotten into some trouble, la da da. So we have two more kids. So I've got my other two kids. They're now 9 and 7 and 19. And then let's see. So summer of 2016. Huh. Summer of 2016, I felt the world coming down on me. So summer of 2016, wow, I felt the weight of the world coming on top of me. I was a full-time student going to college for business. I was a general manager at McDonald's. My husband was working out of town on the oil rig, so he was never home. And it was me, a toddler, a teenager, and an infant, plus school, plus work. I was doing way too much. So I started to turn back to old ways because I had to have an emergency surgery. My appendix ruptured in the middle of Walmart and I ended up having to have surgery. Well, because of that surgery, I ended up getting addicted to pain pills. And that started like a domino effect of everything. And so it ends with me running away from my family, from my kids, even. Yes, I was selfish, very, very selfish. I ran away from my husband. I ran away from my kids. And I figured I was going to do it by myself, do it the way I wanted to, and what nobody going to tell me nothing different. So that's what I did. I ended up getting mixed up in so much craziness. It was not even funny. I had men looking for me, trying to hurt me. I mean, it from a rap video. It was crazy. It was nuts. So I met Fat. I did not know him as Herman Fox. I knew him as Fat, but his real name is Herman Fox. So I met him. He immediately showed interest in me um, and started the grooming process, I would say. Telling me how certain things about my body looked, but it would look better if I did it this way. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's like a psychological tactic that a lot of people use to try to basically change your ideas and beliefs. So just like I think Chuck uses the example, like, has your wife ever told you, well, yeah, honey, that shirt looks great, but I think it would look better if you button the top two buttons, because it's trying to push their belief on you and have you basically do what they want you to do, to look a certain way or do a certain thing. But traffickers use this on a whole different level to manipulate and control.
Yeah.
So he started all of that with me very, very, very early. And at first, I didn't even know what he did. He did not expose me to any of that life. It was all gifts and travel, this place, go this place, and spend money here. Let's go stay at this nice fancy hotel and do this. It was fun. I'm not gonna lie. At the beginning, it was fun. He spent a lot of money on me, something I'd never had. He showed me a lot of attention, which was something that I was craving. Something that I was looking for was that attention. And so he gave all of that to me. And so because of him providing that, once again, that was my vulnerability. And once again, I allowed him to fill that space in my life. And because he did that, he was able to manipulate and control me to do what he wanted me to do. So very slowly, he introduced me to his world. Um, After one night of a long conversation about trust and um, and loyalty to him. So he tells me, "Come on, let's go take a ride." We go take a ride. We show up at a hotel and in a bad part of the neighborhood, and this girl with long red hair, long wig, she walks out and she's probably 16 years old, and she gets in the car. She hands him her cell phone that had a GPS location on it. He hands it to me and he says, "Drive." I did what I was told. So we drive to the location. As immediately we went when we got there. So immediately when she got in the car, his whole demeanor, his whole character, everything changed like in an instant. It was crazy. And you know, whenever she got in the car and we get to the location, he starts. It changes even more. Very controlling of and very intentional with what his orders are to me and to her. So like pull right here, park right there, turn your lights off, that thing, things like that. So instantly, kind of like my guard was going up, but because I knew, I was like, this is not the same person that I've been spending the past couple of weeks with, you know. And so she gets out of the car, she goes inside. About 30 minutes later, she comes back, she hands him money and the phone again, and it has another GPS location on it. And we go to the next one. And this goes on and on and on until this girl is so tired and so spent that she's passing out in the back seat of my car. And he still doesn't want her to quit. So this goes on for, gosh, I want to say a couple days, maybe 5, 6 days. And one night we drove her way out somewhere and away from where we normally was. And she got out of the car, got back in, came out of the house way too fast. And she gets in the car and she doesn't have money. So he got really angry. He had me drive to a secluded location in Louisiana. That's where we were at. This all started in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So we drive to a secluded location outside of Baton Rouge, and he basically beat her to an inch of her life and made me leave her there. And I still to this day don't know what happened to her. So in honor of her, that's why I dye my hair red. A lot of people ask me about that. Yes, that is the reason why. Until I find out what happened to her, I will continue to dye my hair red. Because that was the only way. I don't even know her real name. All I knew was her nickname was Red.
Mm.
So after that, he made me leave her there, and we went back to Baton Rouge downtown, to the hotel that he had already had there. And he goes and sits like over by the office area, and he's doing some stuff on his phone. Later, I find out that he was actually creating an ad on Backspace, on Backpage. I almost said Backspace, on Backpage.com. And the ad that he created, I had no idea what it said. There was a lot of acronyms and different lettering in there, and I had no clue what it even said. So he looks at me and he shows me these pictures of this girl that's on the ad, and it was not me, but she looked very much like me. And he had blurred out her face, but she had this pretty blonde hair. And I had brown hair at the time. I used to dye my hair blonde, but I had brown at the moment. And he was like, "I'm going to need you to dye your hair, and I need you to do a few things for me." And I tried to go for the door. He blocked it and was more on that boyfriend sweet level of kissing and hugging and say, "I just need you to do it one time for me. I promise I'm gonna find another girl, and you won't have to do it that long. We just need to make a little bit of money so we can, until we find her." And he sold me this big false dream of so many lies, and I believed it. So within, I'd say, 2 days, I had a $1,500 a day quota that I had to give him. If I did not meet that quota, he would take me to the field. And that's what he would threaten me with. And taking you to the field was taking you to a secluded location and inflicting as much pain as he possibly could sexually, to punish you. So he started traveling with me and another girl shortly after this. We went from Baton Rouge to Houston to Dallas to Wichita Falls, all the way up to Denver, Colorado, and all the way back down again. Um, I ended up getting my ribs broken in College Station because I shut a door in between the adjoining rooms because I did not want to hear him abusing the other girl in the other room. So I got my ribs broken because I shut the door in between them because I couldn't help her. And I'm I don't know what I was thinking. I was scared.
Yeah.
So when we after we went to Colorado and back down to Houston again, I tried to run, and I did run. He was very strung out on dope, as was I. He had actually in Denton, Texas. That was one of our first stops out of Baton Rouge, and that was the first time that I had ever in my life done methamphetamine, and it did not take but that one time, and I was completely addicted. I did not want to do the drug. I knew better. Anybody that knows me before all of this knows Karla would have never done that. Karla would have done a lot of things, but that was one of them that she wouldn't have done. So, I tried the drug. Yes, it was very addicting. It was very powerful. It was, I mean, whoa, whoa. So yes, I was addicted to methamphetamine through
Mhm,
almost
mhm.
this entire ordeal, which lasted about 54 days. 45, 54, one or the other. I get those numbers mixed up. But so when we were in Houston, I tried to run. Um, he was strung out, and he went to go check on the other girl and left my room. And when he did, he left my keys by the TV on the dresser. I grabbed my keys, I grabbed my backpack, I ran down 3 flights of stairs and jumped into my car. And as soon as I jumped into the car, turned it on, and hit that first corner, I screamed bloody murder because I've never driven with broken ribs before, and that is extremely painful. I didn't make it very far, and I did not know that he was following me at the same time. But I made it to the gas station, and the whole time that I was gone, obviously, you guys heard me say that I had ran away from home. So me and my husband were not living in the same household. He had my kids, and I was off on my own. So whenever he would call me and be like, "Hey, the kids want to see you. You're going to come by," I would make up an excuse, or Fat would tell me a story to tell him to where he would leave me alone for a few days. So the story that was told to my husband was that I was working for Holiday Inn and that I was going out of state for training and all this, which is such a lie. But yeah, so that was the story that was told. But as soon as I pull over at this gas station, I call my husband. I tell him where I'm at, what's going on, who I'm with. And as soon as I said who I was with, whoa, my husband freaked out. So I did not know this, but my husband and this guy went to elementary school together. They've known each other their entire life, basically. And the guy knew that I was married to my husband and never not
Mm.
once told me that he knew my husband. And, it just, when my husband had that reaction, I already knew something. I knew that he understood. I knew that he knew. As bad as it was, I knew that he knew what was going
Yeah.
on. So, right about the time that I'm explaining all of this to him, I get text messages from Fat, and to keep a really long story short, he basically threatened my daughter. He told me that if I didn't come back, he was going to take my 5-year-old daughter and do the same thing to her. So the last thing I told my husband on the phone was, "I'm going back. Do whatever you have to protect my daughter." So, and that was the last I had heard from him. I did not know that whenever I hung up the phone with him, he started calling every police department he possibly could. I did not know. But I honestly thought that that was it. I thought that whenever I went back, like, I wasn't going to make it.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to make it. I was going, it was almost at that point, like 2 weeks before I didn't even have medical treatment for broken ribs. I mean, I didn't know what the next thing was going to happen. I didn't know where he was taking me. I knew he was mad. And I knew that as soon as I got back with him, there was going to be punishment. And my punishment entailed not just a trip to the field, but also an increase in my daily quota, which went from 1,500 to 2,500 a day. At the beginning, I was kind of able to navigate, I would say, through the ads and who answered the ads. So, just for example, if somebody requested something that I was not comfortable with, that didn't push me to do that. But now that all of this had happened, it didn't matter what was going on. I had to take any single call that came through the ad. Didn't matter what. So after the increase in the quota, he moved us, me and the other girl, plus his 6 month baby, 6 month old baby, was with us also. Um, he moved us to College Station again for the second time, and it was in College Station where I was actually recovered. My husband and my mom, after I had talked to him, they started working closely with FBI investigators, local police here in Kerrville, in Baton Rouge. I mean, and they all kind of worked together to figure out where I was, which they ended up using a GPS tracking to locate my phone. And once that phone was on, they knew exactly where I was. They found me at the Marriott Hotel in College Station. It was move-in week for A&M, which is a big attraction for trafficking, and not just at A&M, but at any college, guys. So, I was recovered that way. The police actually caught me walking out of the hotel. He was fixing to move us. And they hollered my name down the hallway, Karla, Karla Solomon, stop. And I didn't even like have a reaction. It didn't even sound like my name, because the night that he posted the ad on Backpage, he called me Alexia, the Australian princess. That was the name of my ad. That was the headline of it, anyways. And he called me Alexia from that day forward. And so the name Karla was like totally lost in there. And it wasn't until I got all the way outside of the hotel and the police actually surrounded me, before I looked up and realized that they were talking to me. And I remember collapsing on the floor or on the parking lot, just kind of like just dropping all of my stuff and just sitting down because I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew. And the first thing you can ask any of these officers, the first thing I said is, you guys just saved my life.
Yeah.
And, but the crazy thing is, even after I went home, even after I seen my husband and my mom and my kids, it was almost like a Stockholm syndrome type trauma bond because I wanted to go back. How sick is that? Oh, and I thought, like in my mind, I'm thinking, what is wrong with you, Karla? But it wasn't even like me. It was because I was brainwashed into thinking a certain way. I was controlled to the extent where if I asked for food, he would barricade me in the bathroom and roll M&Ms under the door. Like, come on, you guys. Like, he had me so conformed to what he wanted me to do and how he wanted me to act, to be obedient to him, that I couldn't even think for myself, And so whenever you come out of that life and you're all of a sudden are able to make all of these choices for yourself again, you don't know where to start. You don't know where to start. And if somebody is not telling you what to do, or, like really forcing you to do it, then you feel like you're not doing the right thing and you're about to get in trouble. And it's like a trauma thing, symptom that you have, and it's hard to shut it off. It's hard to get rid of it. But I mean, I'd like to say with God anything is possible. Obviously, look at me. So, I mean, whenever the state troopers took me to the hospital, I obviously had broken ribs, STDs, but I was traumatized beyond words. I was so bad, I could not look up at anybody in the eyes. Like even the nurses that came to examine me and stuff, I could not look anybody in the face. I was so ashamed of what I had been through. I felt like it was all my fault. I felt like, I mean, it was just a compilation of extremely ugly lies and feelings. And I believed it all at first. And because I didn't have anybody speaking that truth to me. And it wasn't until I had that actual God moment that my healing actually began. Um, in October of 2017, I tried to take my own life. I swallowed a whole bottle of the anxiety medication that they had been prescribing me, Xanax, and I swallowed about 60 pills and I waited. And during that waiting period, I kind of told myself, I was like, take 20 minutes. I'll be done with this. I won't have to think about it no more. I ain't got to experience this hurt and this ugliness. I don't have to have these memories anymore. That was all I wanted. I didn't want to take my life. I just wanted the memories in that movie to stop.
Right.
And so, it was like a eureka moment when all that happened. I had just started going to church. I had a new friend, Chase Spencer. She just started loving on me, like, and she wasn't gonna give up. She wasn't gonna give up. And she had been through some things in her life herself, and nothing like me, but a lot similar. And she just knew that with Jesus that I could be healed. She just knew it in her heart. And the day that I swallowed those pills, something spiritually told her to call me, and she did. And turns out that I confided in her and I told her everything. I told her what I had been through, what I just did. I told her everything. And instead of freaking out and like calling 911, she just started praying with me on the phone. And you guys, I ended up face down in the carpet, just crying and rededicating my life to God and just telling him, like, I can't do this myself. Like, I don't want to do this myself. And it was that moment that I honestly felt him come into my life and start to seriously do some remodeling in my heart. He made it to where all of those pills that I took, I never even felt the effects of them. And I could take one or two of those pills and be dead to the world for 2 days. So obviously that, I mean, I knew it would have been enough to actually do that job that I was intending it to do, but God had other plans. My favorite phrase whenever I speak is, that was the day I tried to throw in the towel and God threw it back in my face and said, no, girl, you got work to do. And obviously I've been doing it.
Amen.
So yeah, I mean, and then shortly after that, we created Mercy Gate Ministries. We now have a year-long program placement called Magdalene House with the Journey program. It's a 4-phase program that's over, you can do a year or over a year. We're starting to do transitional living for the girls that are phasing out of our program, which is awesome. I mean, our program entails so much different stuff, and you can all look that up for yourself. mercygateministries.com. You'll see my story on there. You'll see a lot of stuff that we do in our community, events and things that we've hosted here to educate our community and just to really shine light on the darkness. So yeah, I mean, it's all
That's
about giving back
incredible.
now. It's completely transformed me into being from a victim to a survivor to now a thriver. Like, I
Yeah.
thrive in this area. This is my passion. This is where I really feel called to. And I just really feel that God put it on my heart to do this kind of work with such amazing people like Cece and Caesar and all of my wonderful friends at A21 and all the wonderful people that I really work with and partner with on a daily basis. I mean, and the thing is like, something a lot of people don't realize is that our partnerships with other organizations go so deep. I
Yeah.
mean, how many times have I called you and been like, I need to find a place for this girl to go. And I mean, and I mean, somebody had made the analogy like we all play in the same sandbox. And it's so very true. I mean, we try to, anyways. And, because we all have different areas of expertise, we all have different areas that we're better in. Like me, I know that I am way too emotional and not healed enough to work with kids. I know this. I know this. I would probably leave work every single day wanting to take every single one of them kids home with me. And I know legally I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, on a serious note though, like my heart has been so broken for these kids and adults, you know, these victims, these survivors. I don't like to say victim. That is totally not my vocabulary. But
Yeah.
a lot of people identify them as a victim. So
Sure.
that's why I use that word sometimes. But I like to call them survivors because that's what you've
Mhm.
done. You've survived through that, and the hard part is actually coming out on the other side, a healed person and a changed person, better than you were before. And I think that that's a lot of the big challenge that I'm trying to help our community understand of how to build these girls up to get to a thriver level, not just a survivor level.
Yeah. And to become leaders like you've
Yeah.
become, right? To lead the way, to say, hey, I know what this is like, but let's go this way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
I
think
love
it's really
your
cool
faith
because
story.
one of our first girls, oh, Cece, one of our first girls, she phased out of our program. And now she is in your area and she is starting to share her story with organizations. And being a
Praise
part of that
God.
is just, it's beautiful. It is so beautiful because
Full circle, right?
it is. It's a full circle because she came to my house earlier and she was like, Karla, it's so cool because now I get to do what you do. And it's so cool because all of these girls in Magdalene House that are directly like, that I mean, they obviously learn from me, but every single one says one thing that is all across the board the same. And it's that my story gives them hope.
Yeah.
It gives them
Yeah.
hope to not let their past define them, instead of let it empower them and do something about it to help someone else. And
Right.
that's what I'm trying to teach these girls. That's what I'm trying to empower these girls to do. And it is so awesome to honestly finally see some fruit from that.
That's I'm glad that you are here and that you're able to see the fruit of the work that you're putting in and to let, God also use that for your continual healing and
Yeah.
restoration, beauty from ashes, right? That he just keeps allowing you to see that is like, and the experiences they're having that now
Oh,
that you've gone through also, right, in the healing process, and hopefully they're able to continue to do that and then just take it forward. I hope that at some point we are ending this whole
yeah.
issue, but in the process, it's so good to know, Karla. I've seen you from the first
I
speaking engagement you
know.
ever had. And now to see you on this side as a leader, I'm so proud of you. I really am. You're on our board because of that, because I believe in you. I believe in, I think, I think we have that mutual, we value life, right? We
Definitely.
value people. And I can't even tell you like leaps and bounds how proud of you I am. Like seriously, from one friend to another, from one woman to another. Yeah, recently you celebrated Freedom Day.
You're making me
Your
cry.
personal Freedom Day. Good. You deserve that. You deserve to know that, your fight was not in vain. Like your fight to survive mentally and emotionally and psychologically was not in vain. All of that, God is going to continue to bring back to you. I know He is. And I'm just so happy that you get to see that. A lot of people live life trying to
Yeah.
make a difference and they don't get to see the fruit. You're seeing the fruit, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm
Oh, it's awesome.
And in the present, like it's like David said, right? In the presence of he's going to prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. So even the people that were buying and selling, you are here at your table having a feast with all these women. It's amazing.
It
I'm
is
so proud of
amazing.
you. And I'm just glad I get to be a part, like tiny part
You've been
of
a
your
big part.
story.
You've been a big part, a huge part, not just
And
into
I,
speaking life and love into my life, but into my daughter's life. Like, dude, you
Yeah.
last walk for freedom, you empowered that girl to be a statement maker, a game changer. I mean, she has really, really taken that title to her heart, and she stands on that, and she's like, nope, that's what I do. And,
Good. So
I
for
mean,
those of you who don't know, Karla's daughter, Azariah, she's going to be the next hero in all of this. She's the
yeah,
next generation of us. She is amazing. I got to meet her for the first time at our Walk for Freedom last year. I knew of her, but I had never met her. And so here we have Karla, who is a survivor, and she's at our Walk for Freedom. And, she's right behind Karla. And I'm like, get up here, girl. You're going to lead this. So she was leading the Walk for Freedom with her mom. I mean, to me, it was just a picture of present and future, and it was amazing. So we titled her our junior A21 Freedom Chaser, and she has taken that role very seriously, and I'm so proud of that. Yeah, I don't know if you ever want her to join us on here, you're more than welcome to
yes,
have her come
yes,
in, but we can talk to her for a bit. As she comes in, just tell us a little bit about your Freedom Day. We celebrated that at A21 Freedom Chasers. We wanted to celebrate with you and say, this is a huge deal. Like, I mean, I didn't get to experience your actual Freedom Day, right? But just to be able to lock arms with you and love you through that, I was just honored. Thank you for letting us be a part of it. What does that mean to you now on the other side of this? And as you're seeing women, be empowered to lead?
at first, I didn't even look at it as Freedom Day. I didn't. It was really hard for me to come to that time period, that season. And every year since my rescue has been like that in that time. Probably about July 7th to August 26th. That was the time that I was gone. So during that time is really, really hard for me mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's really difficult. And finally, this year, for the very first time, I just kind of put it in my head. I was like, you know what, Karla? We're going to celebrate this year. We are not going to let it tear you down. We're not going to let just a day define you. We're not going to let, like, I was telling myself this, like I'm
Yeah.
telling myself, doing self talk, in the mirror kind of thing.
Self preaching. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get
And
it.
I'm like,
I
okay,
do it.
girl, hold on a minute, girl. Like, we ain't doing this today. Not doing it. And I honestly just made that decision in my heart and in my head. Like, I'm not doing this crying and pity party this year. I couldn't do it. Like, I've grown so much from that. And, I mean, was it difficult? Yeah, a little bit. But whenever the day actually came this year, I really did feel like celebrating. And then honestly, Cece, whenever you wanted to make it like a A21 thing to like celebrate Karla's Freedom Day, I seen you guys, I seen so many people that wanted to celebrate with me. And that meant the world to me, just to know that I had so much support and so
Yeah.
much love from everyone else to celebrate this day instead of mourn that day. Because for 3 years previous, I've done nothing but mourn that day.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was the day that, and I would go through that whole day remembering memories and, of just the really hard stuff, and I didn't want to do that. So this year, when Cece wanted to celebrate the way that we did, I was just, even though through COVID and all of this, that was perfect. Like, that honestly changed the whole atmosphere for me personally, because instead of mourning that day, I celebrated, and it was okay to
Right.
sell. I felt like it was okay to celebrate, because for a minute there, like, I didn't, like, celebrate for what?
Mhm.
Why would you celebrate something like that? And I never understood it. But now I'm like, why wouldn't I celebrate that? It's like a whole different mindset. Like, it's been flipped. Like, Why wouldn't I celebrate a day so important? Why wouldn't I want to share this with other people? Because the more, like you said, the more education, the more that people know and understand that this is a real problem, the more that they open their eyes, the more that they want to dig deeper and learn and educate themselves more, and hopefully take up a spot somewhere where they're needed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Of
doing
course.
that for me, because it honestly was a big change in my mindset for that. So I thank you guys for that, totally.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. And we'll do that every year. And for as long as you let us.
Of
And
course. What?
I know there's
I thought we were past
probably,
that. You don't have to ask permission for BCC anymore.
and if ever you want to add anyone else's Freedom Day to this tradition,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay.
Because I think that it empowers even other people who have felt that way for a long time to come forward and say, if they can celebrate, then I'm going to get there one day and we can celebrate together too. But there's a lot of women that I know have a similar story to yours and would not be alive if it wasn't for you, Karla, to hear your story, to hear your survival. And so it's important that we celebrate. It's like Ebenezer moments in the Bible, right? Where you stop and you celebrate. So absolutely, we treasure you and we love you. And I think your daughter's ready to come on, right? Hi. How are you?
Good.
Yeah? Did you have a good day today?
Mm-hmm.
Good. I'm so glad that you're joining us. I'm like super excited about you joining us. I think that you are a little powerhouse. How does it make you feel to be a part of A21 Freedom Chasers, to be our junior A21 Freedom Chaser?
Happy.
Yeah? You excited about it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about it?
That I get to walk into 500,000 people.
Did you get to lead 500,000 people? Okay.
That's the coolest part, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does it, when your mom and I talk about these things about, trying to help other people and all of that, how does that make you feel?
Pretty cool.
Do you feel like you're kind of helping us help other people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how does knowing about human trafficking kind of make you more aware at school or around your friends or people where you see weird things happening? How does that make you more aware?
Mm-hmm. I'm able to look out for my friends and my family.
Last question. Are you proud of your mama?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of your mama too.
I'm part of her story.
Yeah, you definitely are. You're a huge part of it. How does that make you feel?
Happy.
So what's your favorite thing about coming with me and doing all these events and seeing mommy speak and being part of that? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel happy.
Does it make you feel like maybe like God's given you an important role to be like a leader for the next generation?
Mm-hmm. I like the last time whenever I went to the youth branch with you.
So you like being able to come with me and do events so that you can do your part and be there for the kids and stuff like that and be a leader for your friends?
Mm-hmm. All right. So Karla, thank you so much for joining me. You and your daughter are amazing. We appreciate all the work that you do. I know that if anyone wants to know what it is that you do on a daily basis and what you're a part of, they can visit mercygateministries.com, right?
Yes. My direct contact information, like my email and my phone number, is on that website. So I am the outreach specialist. So a lot of people contact me. But people that want to know my story more in detail, they are more than welcome to log on to the Talk for Freedom podcast, and my story in detail you will find on episode 20 and 21.
There you go. So you guys can go find Talk for Freedom podcast. It's available on iTunes and Google Play and on our website, and you can find those specific episodes and learn more about Karla's story. Again, if you are someone watching and you feel like this is somewhat your story, please feel free to reach out to local law enforcement, reach out to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and we can try to connect you and put you in places and give you the resources that you need to really transform everything that you're a part of right now. Men, if you are in the situation where you continue to purchase other people for your own satisfactions, personal satisfactions, and you are looking to get some help from that, we have some resources we can point you to as well. You've heard Karla's story and her particular very personal experience with that. And we just want you to know that it's something that other people are experiencing as well. And we would like to help you through that process. No judgment, no guilt or shame, just come as you are, and we will direct you to the right places, the right resources, and help you, love you through that. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you both. Love you guys.
Love you.